One lesson that you don't always learn in school is that it is never smart to pick a fight with someone who's bigger than you, especially if the person who's bigger than you happens to be the giant of Scotland. Now, science tells us that this causeway, the Giant's Causeway in Ireland and in between Ireland and Scotland, was formed after a volcanic eruption 50 to 60 million years ago, and it was actually declared a World Heritage Site in 1986. However, I must say that I prefer learning about the causeway, or the bridge, through the legend of the giants. Now, I'm giving you the autonomy that you can choose whether you rely on storytelling or science, but for now, let's dive into the legend of the giant's causeway. So long, long, long ago, a giant named Finn McCool was the biggest giant in all of Ireland. Not only was the biggest giant, he was also the strongest giant, and he was 54 feet tall and was said to have the strength of 500 men. 500 men. And he lived happily on the northern coast of Ireland with his wife Unya. And at the same time, there lived another giant by the name of Bandowner, and he was a giant of the Scottish coast. And he believed that he was the strongest of all the giants, and he was far stronger and superior than Finn, which Finn took to be a big issue. And Finn had had enough. He had enough of this giant of Scotland's taunting and making fun of him, and Finn finally said, you know what? We're going to war, let's do it. So he started building this path, or this causeway, to Scotland. And then the giant of Scotland figured out what Finn was doing, and he said, you know what? I'm going to do the same thing. We'll see who gets there first. So they were tirelessly working on this causeway all the time to see who could finish this causeway first and defeat the other giant. And then one morning, Finn was really working on his causeway, and he saw the giant of Scotland from afar. And even though Finn was very confident, he took one look at him and said, oh my goodness. Now, Finn is 54 feet tall, but the giant of Scotland is twice his size and has twice the strength of Finn, which Finn did not see coming. So he bolts back to his house. He tells his wife Unya, I need help, here's the situation. And before you know it, the giant of Scotland emerged on outside of Finn's house and was knocking on the door. And so Finn was hiding out, and Unya is very clever and said, I will handle the situation. So she was very kind, very sweet, and she said to him, well, sure, it's a pity, but Finn is away hunting deer in County Kerry. Would you like to come in anyways and wait? I'll show you to the Great Hall to sit down after your journey. And she sounded very sweet and very unsuspicious, but Unya was up till something. So she chefed him up this griddle bread with an iron griddle inside. So immediately the giant of Scotland took a bite, his teeth fell out, then he took a bite of the meat that was actually nailed to a block of red timber, and more teeth fell out, and then Uya gave him a big pail of honey beer. So at this point, his teeth are out, and he's feeling tipsy, definitely not on his best game. And then Unya also pretended that Finn was her baby. She rocked the baby and said, would you like to say hello to the baby? Wait, first I'll have to feed her. And then she disguised Finn as a baby and put him in a huge cradle at the Irish end of the Giant's Causeway. And Finn was fake crying, was fake sucking his thumb, and he had the Giant of Scotland completely fooled. So the Giant of Scotland said, well, if this is the baby, imagine the size of the father. So he ran off, and as soon as he ran off, Finn jumped up and was chasing after him, and he scooped this huge rock of earth, and he threw it at Scotland and the giant, and he missed its target, and it landed in the middle of the Irish Sea, and, as legend has it, it became the Isle of Man. So if you can take one thing from the story, kids, never forget that when you are trying to fight your enemy, have a baby carriage handy.